Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. I know that you've all been trying to probably digest a lot over the last 3 days. So I'm going to try to keep it simple here. I want to share the real life story of how Impact went from using a whole bunch of spreadsheets to track our sales pipeline and forecast to using a CRM or customer relationship management tool. I want to talk about what it did for us and how you can do it too. So I'm going to assume that if you've chosen to attend a talk with this title, that you're currently using some sort of spreadsheet setup for tracking your sales data. Now, before we get too far into it, for those of you who maybe didn't read through the whole description, my name is Karina Duffy. I'm the director of HubSpot training at Impact. Impact is a digital sales and marketing company. We teach people how to fish in the digital sales and marketing sphere. But I specifically, for my role, help people learn and implement HubSpot's CRM in their marketing, sales, and customer service tools. But you didn't come here to learn about me, so we're just going to jump right into it. So what if you could go from something that looks like this for your sales pipeline and reporting? Now, I was going to put together a document like this, a screenshot like this, based on what we used to use, but then I found this hilarious one from an article called Escape the Spreadsheet Hell that I just had to use, and many of you are probably like nodding your heads right now of like, yep, that's pretty much what it looks like when I want to do an annual sales report or something like that. So what if you could go from something that looked like this for your sales process to something that looked like this for your pipeline, or this for your forecasting and reporting, right? Oh, pretty reports. We all love looking at pretty reports from our numbers, right? I'm sure at this point you're probably thinking, oh boy, here we go. Karina's about to try to sell me on some sales reporting platform that's going to cost me a bunch of money and take me a bunch of time to get set up. And the answer is yes, kind of. Not really. See, what happens with CRMs is we get in our heads that it's going to be this really expensive, really time-consuming process to move from what we're currently doing to a new platform, and we can kind of get stuck in what I would call fear. But the more I thought about why so many sales teams are still operating in spreadsheets, the more I realized that the real problem isn't that sales teams aren't convinced of the value that a CRM platform could provide them. It's that they're not convinced that it's worth it to make the transition from spreadsheets into a CRM platform. Messing with your sales process is scary. Sales is what directly drives revenue for your company, right? So it's scary to mess with what you're currently doing and what might currently be working pretty well for you. Now, before I get too far, I've used the word CRM a bunch of times, and I want to make sure I'm totally clear. So CRM, if you don't know, stands for Customer Relationship Management. And so a CRM tool is really a way to store and manage and connect with any of your contacts and your sales opportunities. So if you are curious about, what CRMs do, I won't be diving too, detailed into any technical pieces there, but there's all kinds of information out there if you're curious about CRMs in general. Now, at this point in the presentation, I could read you all of the stats that are in all the blog articles about how businesses who use CRMs are 30% more productive. They increase sales by 29% and improve sales forecasting by 42%. But if stats like that would convince you, then I probably wouldn't need to be here because you've probably seen some of these stats. But it's true, there are many studies and surveys that have shown that sales teams who use CRMs, and when they use them well, get a crazy amount of benefits, increased productivity, increased sales, all of the nice things that we like to hear. But here you are. And that's because spreadsheets in a lot of ways are great. They do a lot of really great things. We can put all the numbers in there. Every deal that we have, we can create equations that we can forecast sales information with. And it's pretty easy to set up a nice little system for viewing all of that sales data. It's rows and columns, right? It's straightforward. It's comfortable and familiar. And because spreadsheets are used basically everywhere, a lot of, or they're usually the quickest, most straightforward tool to use in a lot of cases. So it's completely logical that a sales team would start tracking their stuff using a spreadsheet, especially when they're just getting started or they're small and they're growing. But the more your sales team grows and matures, you start to run into problems and limitations with spreadsheets, some of which you're probably experiencing right now. Because unfortunately, while spreadsheets can have all of the numbers, they are only the numbers. They don't do any of the work for you. If you want to do any kind of reporting on data you have in your spreadsheets, you've pretty much got to have an advanced degree in Excel, which you might have, and I know a lot of people take pride in, so I'm not going to knock that. But that means that you're really limited to the technical abilities of your team when you want to report and analyze any of your sales data. So that's probably putting a lot on you. And I don't know about you, but I've seen people who have spent days, weeks, just putting together things like a quarterly or annual sales report because of how they have to finagle all of the different spreadsheets and tabs just to get the information that they need. Now, I want to give you, or let you know what my completely unbiased opinion on CRMs is before we move too far, because I am completely and utterly biased here. Impact is a HubSpot partner. That's our CRM of choice, and what you'll see as an example in this presentation, because that's what we've implemented for our sales team, and it's what we've helped a whole bunch of other sales teams implement at their organizations. But I know full well there are a ton of different CRMs that do slightly different things, some of which specialize in different industries and different types of companies. So I'm not pushing that HubSpot needs to be your CRM here. You'll have to evaluate and do due diligence for yourself to find what's the best fit for your team. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But now let's get to the good stuff. This is what our revenue tracking and forecasting sheet for 2019 looked like. Most of what for one entire year of 2019. And this is what our forecasting looked like. All the numbers, all the 20 tabs in the spreadsheet, and there's so many equations and VLOOKUPs and pivot tables. It makes my head spin. So I'm really just showing you the simplified version here. And you know what? It worked for us. Now, a lot of people will make the argument that the reason that you shouldn't use spreadsheets is because they're prone to error, right? If somebody puts in the wrong number into a spreadsheet, it could break everything, costing you thousands or even millions of dollars. But I don't really think that that's a compelling enough reason, because just like you can mess up putting something into a spreadsheet, you can mess up putting something into a CRM. Maybe a CRM will help you find that a little bit easier, but you're still going to be just as prone to error. So I really wanted to get to the bottom of why were we using this spreadsheet for so long, and why are so many sales teams still using spreadsheets to track their sales stuff? So I decided to sit down with our head of sales, Melanie, who really spearheaded this initiative at Impact, to talk about what finally got her to decide to move off of this spreadsheet. And this is what she said. When we used spreadsheets for deal tracking and forecasting, we could answer some very specific and important questions like, how much did each rep close this month? What deals are in the pipeline currently, and where in the pipeline are they? And how much revenue are we forecasting for this month, for this quarter, and this year? The problem was, while these questions were quick and easy for Mel to answer, these were not the only questions Mel was getting, and more often, she wasn't even getting these questions. She was getting asked a lot more questions than just these. She was getting asked questions like, how long does it take for deals to close on average? Where are deals getting stuck in our pipeline? How are we doing this year compared to this time last year? What are the most common reasons we lose deals? What lead sources have brought in the most revenue this year? Why is our monthly forecast always low? Which rep has done the most explore calls this month? How can I help the reps on my team improve their processes? Which revenue channels have the most churn this year? Is any of the marketing we're doing actually turning into revenue? Melanie could, of course, give her subjective opinion on answers to many of these questions, like, yeah, I could tell you how to help your reps improve. But she had no way to give immediate, concrete, objective answers to these questions. And they were just coming and coming and coming. And she would spend hours in these spreadsheets trying to find answers to some of these questions, and just end up getting frustrated or wasting a ton of time. So I want you to take a second and write down or type out, or wherever you're taking notes, what are the questions you're getting from other people on your team? Maybe it's from your boss or your boss's boss. Write down those questions you're getting about your sales pipeline, your process, or even your people that you can't answer with your current spreadsheet setup. Take a second. Now, CRM platforms will promise you all kinds of different things. They're going to have all kinds of different tools that help you do X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C, and 1, 2, and 3. But really, when you look at this, and when you write down what questions you're having trouble answering and are important for you to be able to answer when different people on your team ask, that's what you need to make sure a CRM is doing for you. That's what's going to be really important in the long run. So you may have seen our ridiculous spreadsheet setup that we were using at the beginning of 2019 and thought, wait a second, you said Impact is a HubSpot partner agency. So in 2019, you were helping people use HubSpot as their CRM for their sales teams, but you weren't even using it? That is correct, which means we knew all of the benefits, we knew all of these stats, and we knew using a CRM at some point eventually could help us get answers to these questions, but we were also a little scared. You see, we all want any major change in our business processes, especially our sales processes, to look like this. We want to be promised they're going to look like this before we dive in. I want it to be a nice, clear path, with individual steps that we know if we do X, Y, and Z, we will get to the promised land. But we know deep down that things never really work out that way, and it's scary. We inherently know that making a change like this, especially at our organizations that are driven by imperfect people, are really going to look like this. And honestly, we just don't want to deal with the mess. We don't want to deal with what might happen if something gets messed up in the process. It's not easy. It can be slow and time consuming. And to be honest, it's really just not that fun generally. Wow, Karina, you're really selling this here. I know. Let's get back to the story. So Melanie's got all these questions from all these people that she can't answer or can't answer quickly or well. She knows having her team use a CRM would change that, and she finally decides it's time. Now, I will tell you that part of it was, HubSpot was growing as a tool, and so it was adding more functionality. So at a certain stage, we realized that HubSpot was finally the platform that could answer all of those questions that we had talked about before. And so that was the straw that broke Melanie's back, and she said, we're going for it. And let me tell you, this is what the process looked like. It was difficult, it was messy, and at times it was a little bit painful. But now, when Melanie gets asked a question like, how long does it take for deals to close? She's able to say, well, if you look at deals that closed last month, it took about an average of 22 days for our deals that were closed won. But interestingly, it took about 54 days on average for a deal to close that was lost. And I can actually break that down for you by individual reps. So I can see that some of our reps are closing deals much faster. Some of our reps are closing deals much slower. Some of our reps take up to 100 days to move a deal into close lost. What could this mean for us? Could we dig into some of the reasons why it's taking so long to close a deal? If we could save 10 days, 20 days of that sales process, how many more deals could our reps be working? We can also look at it over time. Hey, in the last 4 months, our time to close has been trending up. This month, we're trending at 43, almost 44 days it's taking to close a deal, when in May, it was taking about 17 and a half days. What's going on there? Of course, there may be context there. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We may have a seasonality in our business, right? But we have that data that we can look at. We can see how things are changing over time. Melanie can answer those questions quickly and easily. Let's do another one. How can I help the reps on my individual team improve what they're doing? Well, it looks like Jen's productivity has increased this year, but the last couple of months, it's been way down. Have you checked in with her on what's going on? Have you made sure that she's okay? Is something going on that's making her have to take time off? Or is she just not performing well? And do you need to talk about this in your performance review? Or, hey, it looks like Jen has had a lot of deals push their close dates from this month to the next month. Maybe work with her on her proposal presentation process so she can get those deals closed when they're supposed to close. Or maybe she's not forecasting her close dates properly and she needs to get better at understanding how long it really takes for deals to close. And we can look at those other reports to help her see that. Whew, what a relief it was for Mel. I love talking to Mel about this because she loves talking about this. It is so much easier for her to answer these questions that used to drive her crazy because She knew that the information was there. She knew that there was an answer to that question, but in so many cases, she had no way to find that. So what's it going to take for you to get there? If you've become convinced that it's time, that you want to do this, but you're still a little bit scared and weary of what that process is going to look like, I want to give you a couple tips. First, don't fall for sales utopia. Now, sales utopia is where everything is sunshine, rainbows, and bubblegum. The use cases are perfect, the success stories are pristine, and we become entranced by what we see. Now, what I'm talking about is when you're in the sales process for a CRM platform, and this happens with like any tool, not just business tools. Like I did this recently. I downloaded an app called Habitica on my phone. It's for habit tracking and trying to help you form better habits, get rid of old habits that you don't want. And I saw all of the screenshots. I saw a bunch of reviews. I read all of the demo information about how it's going to help me basically master all of my habits, start all these great habits, get rid of all my bad habits. And I became entranced by what it could be. And then when I actually downloaded the app, I got to the real stuff of all of the things that I had to set up and all of the mess that it was going to take me to get to a point where I could even use an app like that to form good habits. And the same thing is true with vetting a CRM platform, just at a much larger scale, right? Let's take HubSpot as an example. If you go onto HubSpot's sales or CRM software product page, you're going to see copy like this. It's a powerful sales CRM software. It helps your team close more deals, deepen relationships, and manage their pipeline more effectively, all on one easy-to-use platform. It's beautiful. You're going to get noticed and never miss an opportunity to connect with prospects. And if you get a demo, you're going to see this perfect use case, this perfect company that is using a platform like HubSpot, a CRM like HubSpot, and they're able to walk you through how they're using every single tool in this really perfect way. And it sounds great, right? And we look at that and we're like, I want that. I want to do that. We could do that. And you may even have been doing that a few minutes ago when I showed you our awesome sales reports. But remember this little guy? You see, what they don't show you in the sales process, and that's no fault of the sales people, is all that it took for a company to get from where they were to where they are with their beautiful CRM setup. And that's not their job. Their job in the sales process is to show you all that's possible with their platform. So when you're evaluating CRMs, make sure you keep your shiny object syndrome in check. And remember, when you decide to move forward with a CRM, you're going to need to know what success looks like for you. So ask yourself as you're getting started, what does success really look like for us? When you get down to brass tacks, you'll realize that what's more important than having a perfect, beautiful CRM setup that matches your process exactly, it's being able to answer those questions that we talked about before that you already wrote down. Let that be your guide. See, for Mel, getting the answers to those questions that we looked at on that big slide, that was success. If you looked in our HubSpot portal right now, I showed you the really nice reports, but if you looked through our HubSpot portal, you could find a lot of things that are less than perfect and less than beautiful. But at the end of the day, Mel has what she needs to be a successful sales leader. And her team has what they need to be successful sales managers and sales reps. And that's huge. So as you're getting going, you need to remember, and if I haven't already brought it up enough, embrace the messy. As you're implementing a new CRM system, as you're moving off of spreadsheets, you'll go through what I like to call the implementation swamp. It's hard work, plain and simple. You're going to run into hiccups that you didn't expect, even if you tell yourself, I know things aren't going to go completely accordingly to plan. You're probably going to have to change and adjust how you do some things, and you're going to have to get your team on board and using the platform, which can be a whole other thing. So to help you make sure that you're able to embrace the messy and trudge through that implementation swamp to get to CRM success, make sure that you answer the question, who owns your CRM setup? Who owns that implementation process? The answer to this question is one of the best indicators for how successful you'll be. If the answer is, well, no one really, or there's a bunch of people, that's not good. Whether it's the head of sales or you have an operations manager, their title doesn't really matter. Someone needs to own and be accountable for the process of moving from your spreadsheet system into a CRM. For us, Mel was this person. While there were a lot of people on her team and other teams in the company involved in the process, Mel was the single person who was accountable for making sure that the project moved forward, for working through any issues that came up, and making sure everyone on the team got on board with our new processes. Make sure you have this question answered, and of course, the person that owns it is really bought in and excited. And last but certainly not least, your CRM is a work in progress. It is always a work in progress. And while we want so badly to take on a project like this and get across the finish line of launching it and having it used by the whole team and just be done with it forever, it's just not the case. One of the best things about using a CRM platform is that it helps you see what is and isn't working so you can make improvements consistently over time and continue to better adapt to how your buyers are changing over time. You see, buyers are constantly changing the way that they buy. So we need to be constantly changing how we sell. And CRMs are able to tell us what's working, what's not working, and give us visibility into how things are changing over time so we can see if the changes we're implementing are helping or hurting, and we can continue to iterate and improve on those processes instead of getting stuck in the same things that we're doing from the past. So like with embracing the messy, in order to make sure that you're seeing your CRM as a work in progress and not a set it and forget it tool, you need to have somebody who owns the usage of the CRM on an ongoing basis after it's set up and live. So they need to be responsible for making sure that people are using it properly, making updates that help the team improve or be more efficient. So not just, helping looking at data and giving team members ways to improve, but also improving the CRM itself to better serve the people that are using it. For us, we have a few people that are accountable for some of these things based on the team that they're on, who all roll up to Mel. So each of our team leads who uses HubSpot for different things is accountable for making sure that their teams are doing what they need to do in the platform, as well as leveraging and using all of the awesome data and reporting we have in there to help make real data-driven decisions to help their team continue to improve. Like I said earlier, I know moving from spreadsheets to a CRM platform will be no small feat for your company. You've probably been sitting here thinking of a lot of different excuses and reasons why you don't want to do it. But I know that you can do it. You've got this. And if you're not sure where to start, I understand, and I actually created a whole course on it. It's called Getting Started with Sales Technology. It's available for free, completely free in Impact Plus. The URL is right here, impactplus.com/salestech. You can create a free account and access a whole bunch of different resources, but this is one of them. So there's my pitch. Thanks so much for joining me today. And I think we have a few minutes. If there are any questions that have come in, I will hang out for a little bit. Any questions?
So far, no questions in the box, but folks, if you have questions, please type them in the question box and we'll pass them on.
I'll stop sharing my screen here.
And we have questions coming in. There are many types of CRM software, so how does a company make a choice between them?
Yeah, that's the question right there. What I recommend doing, and I do go into this extensively in that course that I mentioned, I think it's about 45 minutes worth of content. It really depends on the company. So I know there's certain companies who have very specific kind of industry specific, I should say, sales processes. And so you want to look for an industry specific CRM versus you may have a more standardized sales process where you just have, deals that you're working, that you're tracking information on, and, there's a deal amount and it just kind of moves through a pipeline. And there's a lot of CRMs that kind of are more general. So really how I like to vet CRMs is, those questions that you get as a sales leader, or those questions that you want to be able to answer. Really keep track of those. And as you're getting into the vetting process, like actually getting demos from people, bring those questions. Ask the reps that you're working with, well, how would I do this? How could I answer this question? How could I set things up in that way? But, I think what's more important, honestly, sometimes than the platform that you choose is the culture at your organization to really push forward with it and to actually adopt it and use it. So there's a lot of companies that will spend a ton of time evaluating CRMs. They'll go with something that's like super customizable, like use Salesforce, for example. There's whole companies that just do customized Salesforce instances that, do things that perfectly map your sales process, but nobody wants to use them because they're so cumbersome and it takes so long to input all the data you need to. And so reps don't actually want to use them because it slows them down. So there's a lot of factors there that you could look at. But my recommendation is always find something that you could get your reps to use. Because no matter how fancy your CRM does, if you can't get your reps to use it, it's not going to matter and your data is not going to get in there. So that's one of the reasons why we love HubSpot, is because it's built for ease of use. So there's a lot of customization you can do in it and things that you can set up. But on the individual rep level, it's built so that it's really easy for them to do their day-to-day job, track their deals, take notes, send emails, all of that stuff in one place. It's not, it's totally user-friendly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so that's a huge piece of it that you want to make sure you don't, again, get shiny object syndrome with like, we could do a million things with this platform. Because when it comes down to it, if you can't get your team to use it, none of that's going to matter.
How long does it normally take to get a CRM set up and my team onboarded?
Whew, that's another money question right there. So again, it's going to depend on how big your team is, on what CRM you're choosing, on how complex your sales process is, and how much time you have to commit to it. So one of the issues that I've found with a lot of sales teams is that, you know, they want to have the CRM, but like they don't want to do all of the work that goes into getting it set up, and so it can take a lot longer. But I would say that typically it's about 3 months, especially like if I just look at getting sales teams set up in HubSpot, in order to take the time to evaluate, you know, what's our current process? Are there things we want to change or improve as we move into a CRM? Because implementing a CRM is a great time to like reevaluate the things you're doing, right? To make sure that you're not doing things just because that's how you've always done them. So you want to be able to take the time to evaluate what you're currently doing and decide if you're going to change any of that. Then there's going to be some migration of information from your spreadsheets or whatever system you're using into your CRM, and then the configuring of the CRM itself, and then the training of the team. So those pieces, you know, of course, can take a variety of different amounts of time. You can get things set up if you have a small team and you're currently using really simple spreadsheets. It could be days, especially if you have time and you're a little bit savvy. You know, you could spend 2 or 3 days and have HubSpot set up for your team right away. But if you've got more complex processes and a lot of data and a lot of reps, you know, the bigger your team is and the more complex it is, you know, the more time it's going to take to actually implement. But if you really commit to making the switch, 3 months is a reasonable timeline to get over from especially spreadsheets into a CRM platform.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions coming in right now.
Awesome.
Oh, no, they just made a liar out of me. I have another question. To be honest, I don't even know what information I need to track and how that's going to help me. It seems like I need to understand more basics before even thinking about a CRM.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, potentially looking at, you know, common sales metrics or, you know, common sales KPIs that people typically do track would be a good place to start. Or even looking at, you know, CRM platforms. I was really focused on kind of reporting and the questions that we're able to answer and the visibility that you're able to get into your sales process with switching from spreadsheets to a CRM. But in the course that I mentioned previously, the Getting Started with Sales Technology course, I walk through basically the 3 major things that CRM platforms do for you. Things like efficiency and productivity, where there's tons of tools that help you, you know, not just track your stuff, but just do your job better, whether you're a sales manager or a sales rep. So yeah, it sounds like there's a lot to learn there for sure. And maybe even just starting on some of the most common ways to even just start mapping out your sales process could be a good start to then start figuring out, okay, what are those questions that I really want to be able to answer? How do I want to be able to, you know, see how my reps are performing? And you can kind of build from there.
Should my CRM be connected to all my other tools?
The more they can be connected, the better, certainly, especially when you're talking about like your marketing tools. And that's another reason why we love HubSpot, is because HubSpot was actually built as a marketing automation platform first, and then it had a CRM in it, and then they added on the sales tools, and they have customer service tools. And so if you're using HubSpot's marketing automation tools, everything is just all in the same place. So the more that you can have connected, and many CRMs will have integrations that are out of the box, or you can build custom integrations into their APIs. The more that you can have connected, the better, because the more visibility you'll get. So you saw the one question that I had that Mel got a lot was like, are my marketing activities, the things that we're doing on the marketing team, actually turning into revenue? That's something we can actually look at in HubSpot and see, you know, what of our content is really touching people before they turn into customers? How much revenue have we generated from people who found our website through organic search or through one of our blog articles, things like that. And because we have, you know, our marketing data and our sales data connected, we can do that. So you're likely, you know, going to have a bunch of different platforms, especially because, you know, depending on what industry you're in, you know, there's always going to be different platforms you need to use for different things. Even when, you know, people promise all-in-one tools, it's never really everything that you need. So the more that you can connect things, the better. But sometimes that's difficult, I understand. And there's, you know, reasons why you can't, you know, be, you know, automatically updating things between systems or things like that. But, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of finagle things. You know, exporting data out of one platform into your CRM is one way to do it. So you can do the reporting that you need to do without, you know, doing a major integration project or something like that. Hopefully that helped answer that question.
CRMs are expensive. How can I get started on the cheap?
How can I get started on the sheet?
On the cheap, they said CRMs are expensive.
Oh, yes. Oh, on the cheap. Sorry, I think
Yes.
on the cheap.
Sorry.
Yes, you are totally right. So CRMs are expensive. Again, you know, of course, like I'm the HubSpot person, so that's what I, you know, most of my thoughts go directly to. Platforms like HubSpot, and there are other platforms, have free versions. And one of the things that's cool about HubSpot is for all of HubSpot's tools, there's free, starter, pro, and enterprise versions that all go up in price. So HubSpot has free sales tools that you could go on right now and set up a pipeline and start tracking your deals in there. And you could get basic reports that show you, you know, those things that I was showing you. And then when you're ready and you realize, you know, I need a little bit more functionality, I need a little bit more reporting capability, you could move up to starter, you could move up to pro, and pay, you know, a little bit more, and the platform essentially kind of grows with you. So, you know, HubSpot is a great place to start. Other CRMs do, you know, sometimes have freemium options. But that's one of the things I love about HubSpot is like you could literally go right now, go to HubSpot.com, sign up, and start using it immediately without paying a cent. You'll never have to pay a cent for the free tools. It's really just a matter of if you run into a functionality limitation that isn't offered in free, then you can upgrade at some point. But even when you upgrade, everything that you've been doing and using stays the same. You just get additional features and functionalities unlocked.
And that was our last question. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for joining, everybody.
All right, thank you very much, Karina. I think we all learned a lot from that who didn't know about CRMs. And thank you, everybody, for participating in our third annual Better Business Summit. If you have signed up for breakouts or keynotes that you weren't able to attend, we are going to have them uploaded on YouTube next week so that you can view or review them if you saw something and want to hear it again. Thank you to all of our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor, Impact. And we hope that our event has really given you the tools to learn how your business can survive and thrive through 2020 and into 2021. See you all next year at the Better Business Summit 2021. Thanks, Karina.
See ya.